how did we get here? How did we get to a place where people just sheepishly follow? Whatever the leader says, they don't think, they don't reason, they just follow. Well, in our episode of Drop the Stones, we talk about that and give a reason why. And it's just bearing the fruits of the teachings that came through when this generation that's leading things now was being taught through the 80s and 90s. Think back to the teachings that came through there, where the church was starting to align itself in a political realm based on LGBTQ and abortion issues, and how they wanted to have this front going forward, a base, a point to attach to say this was the religious rights views on what things need to be done, and this is how we had to enact policy. And then think about the teachings that were going on at this time also. When you had teachings like Dobson that was telling parents to raise their children up, to obey at first command, otherwise suffer corporal punishment. So, and I remember hearing Dobson talk about this and reading about Dobson talking about this, that if your child did not obey on the first command, you told them to do something, there was no excuse for that. You needed to punish and make sure your point got across that I am the authority, and when I say, you do immediately. You had purity culture coming through, where it was assigning roles in relationships and talking on this is the roles of the man, this is the role of the woman, this is what we can and can't do, and when we can and can't do it. And all these things that kept going. You probably can list off 100 more that I'm not thinking of right now, of teachings that came through the 80s and 90s that have led to people today just blindly leading because they were trained that way, to listen to whatever authority says and obey it at first command and react and do accordingly. Don't think about it. Don't wrestle with your internal morals or anything like that, because if you have conflict in that, it's wrong, because you've been told you've been evil and you want to act in an evil way, and you learn that this is the right way is just to obey what people tell you because they know better than you. They know what's best for you more than you knows what's best for you. And that's how we got to where we are, where we just have people in this country that listen blindly. No matter what ridiculous gets spewed out or said, that sounds good, let's do it. And my hope is that the teachings changed a little bit later. When I was raising my kids in the 2000s and 2010s, there was a different message coming through. When you go through, some of it still was permeating through. It had to have its place in there, but there was another message coming through that was loud and clear. You had messages like, what would Jesus do? And the kids reasoned that. I talked to my kids of what they were taught, and the Veggie Tales and shows like that, where it doesn't matter what you look like, if you're different or whatever, we accept, and everyone's a loving person underneath this spectrum. Everyone's accepted. Everyone needs to be loved and shown respect. And that message sunk in with these kids. So you look, and I've seen kids post too that, hey, maybe the reason that our kids turned out liberal is because they're following the lessons that they were taught. And that exactly is my hope, that they did follow the lessons that they were taught. And they do start seeing more empathetic and compassionate and inclusive in their thinking. And when they start to wrestle power away from these people that can't think and just blindly respond, then things will actually start to change a little better as a whole in our country.